What's your thoughts about the final 3 games now and not relenting into despair?
No, I don't see that in this team. I know that's not this team. Me personally, that's not I'm not offensively. We won't allow it.
Keep it open or close it out. An odd sequence with Kyler Murray.
How often do you relent into despair, Connor?
Whenever I go home, right after the show every day. No.
Super weird. Same, but when I sit at the desk.
Right.
So it's basically pretty much when I wake up, I relent into despair, and it doesn't go away until I fall asleep. Basically, that's every waking moment.
Yeah.
I liked how robotic, though, Kyler's just like.
Yeah,
just pushed right through.
Yeah. The ridiculous question.
Yeah. It's just, all right, let's just get through this.
Unbelievable.
Kyler Murray headlines are keep it open or close it out, trying to.
By the way, that's a good fantasy team
avoid
name.
the despair.
Relent into despair.
Yeah. Maybe
should have been my team name.
Yeah, exactly.
For our show league.
You still have time.
Stickman
Consolation bracket.
Yeah. Playing hard.
Yeah. The Stickman I will be relenting into despair.
Yes.
If I don't beat Jay, and I'm seriously nervous.
It's really bothering you, I can tell.
I'm totally.
You're a minus 250 favorite.
1,000%.
I have nothing to lose.
He has nothing to lose.
Give a pep talk to your team.
You're playing with house money. You shouldn't even be here.
No.
Like, you shouldn't even have made the playoffs. And now
Absolutely not. I've got the 9th best team in a 12-team league.
Exactly.
Now 2 wins away, baby, from the ship.
It's nice that you understand that, and you understand that I should be in your spot right now.
No, your team was. He said 9 out of 12 teams. Yeah, no, he said, which means there are 3 teams worse than his, and yours is one of them.
Damn.
Yeah.
Relent in despair.
Go carry on.
Yeah.
All
right. You had Anthony. You had bad injury luck. You had just every big name.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to include myself in this playoff talk. It's I feel
you can root for me. How about that?
No.
Kyler Murray. Matthew, the question simply is, can you start Kyler Murray in the playoffs this week? He's got the Bears. The Bears defense has played extremely well. And right now, it looks like, as we show the graphic here, you have him right on the fringe, quarterback 13, but not everybody might have one of those top 12 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fringy is right. Kyler's had back-to-back games himself with under 14 fantasy points, and over the last month, only one team in the NFL has allowed fewer fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks than the Chicago Bears. They're actually tied for the most takeaways in the NFL over that stretch. They've allowed 1 or fewer touchdown passes in 3 of the past 5. Kyler doesn't seem to be running the way he was earlier when he came back, and so this is a concern when you think about how strong that defensive line is and how well this defense has played since they got Montez Sweat. They can really get after the quarterback, and assuming they stay disciplined, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of room for Kyler Murray to run. Having said that, you just may not have an option. Some of the other guys out there that, again, you're starting Easton Stick. I'm in a dynasty league playoff. You guys tell me, but I'm in a real struggle here. I have 4. It's a Superflex dynasty league. I have 4 quarterbacks: Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jared Goff. Trevor Lawrence and Baker Mayfield are against each other. That's assuming Trevor Lawrence clears concussion protocol, which he's in. That decision may be made for me. But then you got Baker against the Jags, Kyler against the Bears, and Jared Goff at Minnesota.
Yeah, I will say about.
So they're all sort of right there. They're all kind of fringy. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's a clear-cut answer.
I'd play Goff.
Yeah,
Goff indoors.
I'd play Goff indoors against
Minnesota would be first for me.
Same.
But meanwhile, you see my rankings there. I have Goff a little bit lower just in terms of the numbers. The projections spit out Kyler slightly higher.
You closing that out?
No. I'm probably still keeping it open on Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's just kind of it's on the borderline.
Also,
I guess you're closing it a little bit because it's outside my top 12, but
with the Bears' defense as well, I know it's much improved, particularly since they got Sweat. They've also played some bad quarterbacks lately. They played Joe Flacco, they played Bryce Young, Josh Dobbs, Derek Carr, and the Saints. They haven't been. It's not like they're playing Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen every week. So I think they are a little bit inflated.
This is true, but but this game's at home in Chicago, where it'll be cold, right? I mean, and Jared Goff, they shut down Jared Goff, who then the next week.
Yeah, but Goff outdoors is kind of like.
Well, exactly. But
Joe Flacco ended up being quarterback 9. He threw those 3 picks, but 374 and the 2 touchdowns. Kyler did run for 49 last week, so that's kind of why. And he's my quarterback 13 this week as well, and it's because of that upside the game too. It's 44.5. So it might be some type of points in this game, especially you get Justin Fields on one side running the ball, Kyler Murray on the other side. The Cardinals did go into Pittsburgh a couple weeks back, beat them Steelers, but again, they had Mitch Trubisky, but still, I feel the same way. It's like you keeping it open like this, open like that, because he quarterback 13, but it's still Kyler Murray.
It's like this. It's at the bar. It's closing time. You've had enough. Nothing's happening tonight. You're looking around. You're like, whatever. And like, do I go home or do I have one more? I probably should go home. I'll keep it open, but I shouldn't. And I'll have one more, and then you end up regretting it.
You hope something happens.
Yeah, something happens, and then it almost never does.
Yeah. Something good can happen too, though.
Yeah, you never know.
Something good can happen.
1% chance. Yeah.
1% chance. So you tell me there's a chance.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. Jay Croucher comes in. It's
Pick up lines.
It's Buffalo. It's cold.
Yeah.
He needs a place to stay. Yeah. Things happen every once in a while.
One magical night.
One magical night.
Jay, how about Bijan Robinson here? Season low on touches with 8 and yards with 14 last week in the fantasy playoffs. But if you have Bijan Robinson, it seems kind of hard to sit him. Where do you stand on this one?
I think you probably have to keep it open, but not with any confidence. I understand the Colts recently have not been great against opposing running backs, but I don't really care about their past 6-7 weeks overall, because all I care about is when Grover Stewart is in the lineup, because he is their entire run defense. And when he plays, they have an above average run defense, and when he doesn't, they have basically the worst run defense in the NFL. Like, he is their entire unit there, and he is playing now, and he's had a couple weeks under his belt since he had the 6-week suspension. So I think that spells bad news for Bijan in this matchup. But at the same time, you drafted him in the first 2 rounds, you probably have to start him.
I think you have to. I'm going to keep it open as well. I'm at running back 21, so just kind of borderline right there. I mean, if you are playing this week with Bijan Robinson, congratulations. You survived like one of the worst fantasy failures of all time. Historic proportions, negative fantasy points from a guy that was drafted in the first round of every single fantasy draft, of a guy that had been, this kind of top 5 guy for a month prior, and then just insane Arthur Smith usage. But to your point about the Colts, Jay, over the last month, the Colts have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. They've allowed at least 100 rushing yards to a running back in 3 of the past 4. And from weeks 12 through 14, Bijan Robinson was the 8th best running back in fantasy. So I just sort of feel like if you're telling me a running back's going to get 100 yards against the Colts, I feel like it's likely Bijan Robinson. Clearly the change of, for all the Arthur Smith bashing that I can do, will do, and will do in the future, listen, it's Christmas, right? So, I mean, Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas Present, Ghost of Christmas Future. I want to redo that, but every single ghost is just me yelling at Arthur Smith. Yeah. Arthur Smith when he's a coordinator of the Titans, Arthur Smith now as head coach of the Falcons, and in the future, Arthur Smith like offense coordinator from high school.
Yeah.
Stop it with the Commanders. No, from high school. He's going to play.
He go there.
Rivera out Smith.
I love
right.
it. I would love it.
Exactly.
He's going to be a coordinator
And
somewhere
also,
after this
too,
draft.
He's going to be a coordinator like the Birmingham Stallions.
Arthur Smith don't care about Christmas either. If he ain't giving Bijan Robinson the ball, you think he care about Christmas?
Oh, no, absolutely
He don't
not.
care about no Christmas.
Stocking full of coal for Arthur Smith. What I will tell you, though, is that clearly Arthur Smith is sitting there looking at Christmas past and Christmas future and saying, like, you know what? I went from Desmond Ridder to Taylor Heineke. It didn't work last week. I went on the road to Carolina, and I lost a game that I should have won by, a touchdown, and I lost it. So I do think he changes up what he did last week, which starts with a quarterback and also starts with, oh, yeah, that's right. I've got this guy on my team that's insanely talented. He's going to get the rock. So I don't feel good about it because it's still Arthur Smith, and he defies all logic. Yeah. And, he should have gotten him last week, and, who the hell knows? And he'd probably sit here and be like, yeah, well, Cordell passed and scored the touchdown. That wasn't why we lost.
And that play right there, got no problem with that particular play.
No, of course not. It's
but
a
it's
touchdown.
like, right, but it's
and
like.
Yes, and Bijan had a bad fumble. Okay, but whatever. But
it was a whole game before
it's a big
that.
picture.
Yeah, it was so I don't know, can't trust him. We leave it, like I got him at running back 23. I'm going to leave it open, though, because I have him at running back 23 and not 43.
I just don't know that you're going to have it in week 16. I don't know that you're going to have an option on your team that has the upside and potential volume of Bijan Robinson that you feel better than Bijan Robinson. If you do, God bless. But So I'm nervously keeping it open.
You spoke about people making it through with Bijan.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. You know who I benched? Raheem Mostert. You know who I'm not benching this week for Bijan?
Raheem Mostert.
Raheem Mostert. Thank you, Kyron Williams, for, he carried my running back group there. So there you go.
Our next one here, Austin Ekeler. Kind of an interesting comment from Ekeler on the end of the season. He said, I know I'm the same player, but that doesn't matter when it comes to the contracts, when it comes to the media, when it comes to betting. It's making sure I prove it to you guys. Lawrence, single-digit fantasy points in 4 of his past 5 games. For a guy that's a fantasy legend in Austin Ekeler, can you keep this one open?
I'm actually going to close this one out. No Justin Herbert. We saw Easton Stick in his first start. You would have liked to see something besides garbage time against the Raiders. I don't know how that I kind of got an inkling how that offense is going to fare against the Buffalo Bills. Speaking of, you spoke on 4 of his last 5 games. I just mentioned Kyron Williams. He just ran for 152 yards in Week 15. Austin Ekeler has ran for 174 yards his last 5 games, and he's getting 3.5 catches in that span. So it's not like he just killing it in the receiving game either. So that, coupled with the fact that Isaiah Spiller getting carries, Josh Kelly's getting carries, I'm afraid of that start this week, especially in this matchup. It might be different if it was a different team, but the Buffalo Bills is knocking out everybody in their way right now.
Yeah, I will say with Ekeler, at least, past 2 games in particular, he's looked better physically. He's looked more explosive. He was able to come into the game late, break off a little 10-yard run, which he was very excited about in the 4th quarter. I think he is very aware, clearly, with his comments, of just his statistical production, particularly this time of year. And I think that he wants to perform clearly. It's just a matter of whether they keep the game close enough that it doesn't become the Isaiah Spiller show.
But look, he's a fantasy football player himself. He's a friend of the show, by the way. He's an investor in fantasy life. It's one of the reasons why we wanted him on the cap table, candidly, is just because of his awareness of fantasy football and betting and everything else and statistics. And the fact of the matter is that I was encouraged by the fact that he still was getting some touches in their game last week. They're down like 50 points.
Yeah, he's in the 4th quarter.
He was in the 4th quarter. Like, that game was over by the first quarter, but he was still out there. And so, again, the Bills over the last month are a bottom 12 run defense. I do think Ekeler gets enough volume. I'm keeping it open on him. Again, the same way with Bijan. Like, I don't feel great about it, but the potential volume and upside, I don't know that you have better options than him. He's more of a flex than a RB1 or 2, which is crazy to think about given, what a legend he is. But I do think he'll have a little bit more success. He wants to finish strong, and it's not a matchup that scares you.
Our next running back, Matthew, Breece Hall against your Commanders. Season low 18 yards on just 7 touches last week, which was a disaster class of a game for the Jets offense against the Dolphins. But the reality is on Christmas Eve, Breece Hall has his maybe best matchup of the year.
Everyone's best matchup is against my Commanders. They're brutal. I'm keeping it open on Breece Hall. It's a top 10 play this week. Over the last 4 weeks, only one team in the NFL gives up more fantasy points per game to opposing running backs than my beloved Washington Commanders. They've given up 100 yards from scrimmage to a running back in 6 straight games. 6 straight games, a running back has gotten at least 100 yards from scrimmage against the Commanders. You assume Breece Hall will be number 7. When he sees at least 15 touches this year, he's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game. They don't want Trevor Siemian throwing it, and they're not going to need to against the Commanders. So, yeah, give me some Breece Hall as a top 10 play this week.
Yeah, I'm going to leave this open. They'll throw it, but it'll be in the short game to Breece Hall. The Commanders have allowed 7 touchdowns to running backs in their last 4 games. So, yeah, we're keeping it open. There's not much to add here. It's the Commanders.
Our last running back, Jay, Motor Singletary. Last week was his first game with more than 13 touches since Week 11. He's got the Browns, which can be a tough matchup in general, but if he gets that kind of volume, can you keep this one open?
I think so, reluctantly, but just with the volume, with the fact that he clearly has taken over this backfield from Dameon Pierce, with the fact also that they're not going to want to have Case Keenum drop back and throw 40 times in this game. And also the Cleveland Browns, their run defense is very solid. It's not the same unit, though, as their pass defense. So I think that they will be running the ball as much as possible, and Singletary's the beneficiary.
Yeah, and prior to Week 15, the Browns had allowed a touchdown to a running back in 5 straight games. And so Singletary, who's averaging 76% of the Texans' rushes over the last 2 weeks, I think volume gets him there. He comes in at running back 25 for me, but I'm keeping it open. I think he is a better than average flex based on volume.
Lawrence, our first wide receiver, Zay Flowers, he's got the Niners in a tough matchup, and he's coming off a week where he had a season-low 2 targets. Where does he rank for you?
This week I got him at wide receiver 29. Still gonna keep it open though. San Francisco, we know they're a great overall defense in terms of like real football. On the fantasy front though, they're 17th. They're only the 17th best at allowing fantasy points to receivers. We saw DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett have solid days against them recently. We saw the same with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Both of those guys were able to get over 95 yards. And you just, versus this San Francisco defense, you're not just going to run the ball down their throat. You're gonna have to throw that ball against that defense. So I'll leave it open for Zay. He's been pretty consistent outside of his last game. So, and he's their guy. You know, Odell's coming up. He's been coming up, but Zay Flowers, he's still a guy, so I'm going to keep it open.
Yeah, a couple quick things on Zay. One, the internet was ablaze yesterday with rumors that Zay Flowers was in a walking boot with an MRI. Now, that turned out not to be real, but it was reported more reputably that he does have foot soreness. So there is something there, and he only had the 2 targets last week, which is really weird considering. Yeah. So I would suspect there is an actual injury, even if it's not going to keep him out of this week. So that would just be one thing to note, to be a little bit wary of with Zay Flowers.
It's a must-win game for both of these teams, like the potential Super Bowl preview. I have him at wide receiver 27, so I'm keeping it open, but again, somewhat a little bit reluctantly. But I'm going to go there just because I think the Ravens will have to throw. They're 5.5. They're 5-point underdogs on the road at San Francisco, and it's worth noting that in every game this year except for 2, opponents have thrown at least 31 pass attempts against the Niners. Like, you can throw against San Francisco. I think that's what Lamar is going to have to do. Lamar, not only does they want to win this game, obviously, but more importantly, this game is a referendum on the MVP race. We've talked about this. Yep. It has really come down to Purdy versus Jackson, and so the quarterback that wins this game is most likely your MVP at the end of the year. And I think Lamar, after the big contract, wants to prove like I'm the guy, and so he'll be throwing. I think he'll be wanting to show off. Not that Purdy won't be, but if Lamar Jackson is going to have a big game, he's likely going to need Zay Flowers to be heavily involved in that.
Our last one here, Jacoby Myers, Lawrence, against the Chiefs. We saw Jacoby Myers throw a touchdown last week. He's got 15-plus fantasy points in 2 of his past 3 games. This one been a fringe most of the season. Can you keep it open with the playoffs on the line?
I'm definitely closing that out with the playoffs on the line. He's touchdown dependent. How many times is he going to – we've seen him throw touchdowns quite a bit, but how do we expect that again? He's got less than 50 receiving yards and 6 in his last 7 games, although that one game was against the Chiefs. But, he's not inside my top 40 this week.
7 games in which Aiden O'Connell has started at quarterback so far this year, and Jacoby Myers has been under 9 points in 4 of them. As a whole, he averages just 10.7 fantasy points per game in all the games that Aiden O'Connell has started. AOC is going to start again this week as well. So Myers, who's averaging under 40 yards a game, to me, I'm closing it out. He's my wide receiver 41 against a Chiefs defense that allows the 6th fewest fantasy points per game to wide receivers this year.
To recap, Matthew's keep it open, close it out rankings. Kyler Murray at QB 13 is a fringe, but we'll call it a close here. Bijan Robinson, RB 21, open. Austin Ekeler, RB 20 against the Bills, open. Breece Hall against the Commanders, RB 10, open. Motor Singletary also stays open against the Browns, RB 25. Zay Flowers, wide receiver 27 against the Niners. He's an open. Jacoby Myers is a certified close at wide receiver 41 against the Chiefs.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.